Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal Night Tears. This is our special New Year's Eve edition. It's not going to be any longer than the normal one because I have a lot to do after this, so I can't marathon into the new year tonight. But I did come on to give you a show to entertain you for a little bit of it anyway. And thank you to all of you who are here with me. As always, it's a rare and unique pleasure to all of you that are coming in now. I see the numbers are jumping up pretty rapidly, so I guess you guys like me. You really like me. So hope you had a good day. It is the very last moments of 2019. I was just, it's hard to believe that these years are flying by so fast, isn't it? But I just, in looking at the year that is behind us now, I just think about how much this has all grown and developed and become something more than it was before. And I just am always just taken aback by the fact that it's become so much more in this year's period of time. I don't think it was probably much. I don't know, when did we had only been just past 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. I think just prior to New Year's last year. I think it was probably November-ish, but here we are, a year later, and we're over 5,000 subs, and it's not a huge number by YouTube standards by any measure, but it is to us. And again, every one of these numbers has been absolutely incredible to me and to Don as well. And Don and I are just absolutely beside ourselves with how much this has grown and how much it's becoming something so much bigger, and not than we could have dreamed, but than we were expecting. I think we never knew when we were doing these live streams and when we were doing the podcast, we never really knew how would people accept it. Would people accept it? Because it's hard to know if what you're doing is going to resonate with many people or not. But you guys have continually shown us and demonstrated to us your kindness, your love, your support, and your encouragement for us to continue and strive always forward with what we're doing here on the show. And, we're just humbled and we want to definitely take these moments to thank you for the last 12 months. It's just been incredible. And I know we got a long ways to go yet, but we're definitely heading in the right direction. And we owe it all to you guys. We really do. So many of you have been so instrumental in creating and helping us, mitigate this growth and to watch it become so much bigger than it was 12 months ago. So thank you all for that. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for the many different types of support you guys have offered. Some of you have pitched in financially. Some of you have pitched in with encouraging letters and stories of your own. And some of you have pitched in with just letting people know about the show and supporting the shows by watching as many of them as you're able to. And all of those pieces really create this amazing whole that we're enjoying now. And it's just exciting to see where we're going to get to in 2020. I'll tell you that. I'm excited. I really hope that we are on the verge of that, a banner year for all of us. I'm really hoping, because 2019, of course, was hills and valleys. I think, I just did a message on our Facebook, Paranormal Portal Facebook page, and it's like, 2019 was a lot of hills and valleys. And it really did seem it was more valleys than hills, but not that it was a horrible year by any measure, but it just seemed like everybody's just been sorting through their crap for this last 12 months. Everybody's been working through a lot of old stuff, and it's like everything that used to work, everything that used to fit, everything that used to sustain us, just we kind of outgrew. And I don't know if that's a development of us as a community, as a species, as these beings of energy that we are, or what it means. I don't know. I believe it's something like that. But we've all kind of outgrown our old boundaries, and now we're yearning towards and forward into whatever's next. And it's really an exciting time. I think that this is an incredible journey that we're on, and I'm always hopeful. I'm always hopeful because every year that's come around, I've always thought, well, maybe 2017 will be the one. Then maybe 2018 will be the one. Then 2019. And here we are going into 2020. But I think this is really kind of, I really feel good about 2020. I got to tell you, I think that this is maybe the transition we've all been waiting for to, hopefully get through a lot of the illusions and darkness and shit that's been surrounding us. I slipped on my own show, but it happens because, it's something I'm really passionate about. We've all been fighting a hard fight. And so here we are marching into 2020, and, I think we're doing it. We're doing okay. I think we're okay, guys. But just a special thank you to all of you who have helped to keep this growing and going and moving forward. So, I guess just to let you know, the phone lines will be open throughout the duration of the show tonight. 720-923-0500. If you want to call in and be a part of the show, you're certainly welcome to do that. We'd love to hear from you. As we're heading into the new year, how about some old stories? But anyway, I hope you all are ready because it's time for bed. Yes, Lewis, you're right. This episode will be rated PG-13. Thank you. Occasionally, a cuss word will slip my lips, but generally I'm pretty good about that. I try not to do it because I know that there's some young ones out there listening and stuff, and I want to respect that and not introduce somebody else's kids to new words just because I have a lack of self-control, but I try to respect that as much as I can. So anyway, I apologize if anybody who's offended by that, but I hope the message itself was worth hearing. So anyway, I got some stories lined up for you guys tonight. Welcome everybody that's here, and I don't know how many more we'll get tonight. Put us to bed. I'm putting you to bed, Bomber. It's time for bed. How can you say that without being like super, super flirty? I don't know. What do you do? It's fine. Oh, thanks, Chris. I'm glad you understand. But I hope you guys are doing great. It's just New Year's Eve, and I guess most of all, what I think about is people being careful on this night because there's a lot of idiots out there, a lot of drunks, a lot of people that shouldn't be behind the wheels of cars that will get behind the wheels of cars and put a lot of people in danger. So I hope that's none of you guys. I hope you all are being safe and maybe you're just staying in. I know I am. Kev Baker, how you doing, brother? Welcome to the show. It's great to see you, my brother. And excellent job. Kev Baker's he's one of the hardest working people in internet radio and YouTube as well. I mean, he's streaming multiple times a day for the most part, and he's just been a machine. I think that I work hard, but then Kev shows up and he's doing two, sometimes three things a day, and it's like, wow. I don't know where you get the energy, brother, but you're doing fantastic. Kev, by the way, Duke is also a TFR host, and he is World Bigfoot Radio in the chat room there. And I hope you guys can connect because Duke is kind of one of the most knowledgeable people on the Bigfoot phenomena that I've ever met. And I think he could be a great guest on your show. So just consider it. He's been on the portal many times, but he's really really knows his stuff. So official greeting aside. Oh yeah, great. There you go. There you go, Duke. You guys can touch base, but you got to get the Duke out there. The Duke is the Duke, after all. So we got. I hope an entertaining show for you here, guys. So I got some stories pulled up for you. It's going to be a night terrors like any other night. It's just New Year's Eve night, but I thought I'd do a show. I was thinking about not doing a show tonight, but I was like, no, kind of like Christmas. You got to get together on the holidays, and you guys are definitely family. So here I am, and here you are. And so let's see what we can get into here. The first story tonight is coming from Kentucky. Now, last night we talked just a little bit about imps. And I find this story is kind of interesting. I got snow falling off my roof. It snowed like about 8 inches today. It was coming down as heavy and wet. Oh, man. But the beauty of it is it's like totally melting now. It's melting fast. It's dripping off the roof like a faucet. It's crazy. Not that you care, but I always find whining about my weather to be a part of how I cope with it. But yeah, it was a heavy, wet snowfall today. It's pretty stuff, but it's cold and it's heavy as hell to shovel. Man, I hate that stuff. All right, so let's get into it. We talked a little bit last night about imps in relation to demonic beings. Now, I do believe that imps are creatures that could be extension of a demonic presence. It could be an extension of a demonic consciousness, maybe a projection of that consciousness, like it can break parts of itself off to go and look for potential areas where it can do whatever the hell it is they do, which is usually not good. But people do report these little imp-like beings, these little creatures, and oftentimes it has seemed, I can't say oftentimes, I have heard that these imp manifestations do or have, at least on occasion, been a precursor to a full-blown demonic infestation. So are these little forebearers for the demons kind of prepping their way? I don't know. They are certainly nasty little things from what I understand. And if you notice you have them, do whatever it takes to get them the hell out, because you don't want them bringing in the next thing. So just my 2 cents. Well, I'm going to see what this story is. It has to do with an imp. So it says, one of my best friends, whose name I'm not going to use, used to live in a haunted house. He grew up in a spiritual family, very religious. 1 year ago, they moved out to a house, which was about 4 miles from where I live now and about 5 from where he lives. And they lived in a house in a small neighborhood, and the house had an entity, and an entity in it called an imp. Now, according to what they have told me, it's not quite a demon, but very close. They are similar to a poltergeist and somewhat similar to a demon, almost like a combination of the two. And they said this entity could move very fast, was shaped like a large black ball, and could go invisible when it chose to willingly. One of the very first nights they moved into that house, my friend's younger brother and his mom saw it with a clear sight. My friend described it to me as more of something you would see in the corner of your eye, not usually a close look, and he never actually saw it up close like they did. They bought a dog to live in the house with them because they did not feel really comfortable. And sometimes in the middle of the night, the dog would wake up growling and following something while it would sniff at the ground. And this is when it was invisible. Note, dogs and cats can see spirits when humans cannot, meaning while they are invisible. My friend every night would put a tall glass of water next to his bed and to drink if he got thirsty during the night, and almost every morning he'd wake up to find that the glass had less than an inch of water in it. One night, his older sister, whose name I also will not mention, woke up while sleeping in her room, and she would always lock her doors and windows in that house, and she thought someone was at her door, and I forgot to mention that they had a black cat at the time of living in this house, and she opened the door and saw what she thought was their black cat, and she let it in and locked her doors and windows again, and the next morning she woke up and realized that the cat was not in her room or anywhere in sight. Well, she asked the family if they took the cat out of her room, and they all said that they had not been in her room. And they believe the imp took form of a black cat to get inside of her room. My friend tells me that this house did not only have this imp in it, but other lost spirits, and there would be random wandering spirits in the house of random people they didn't know, and they would be in their rooms sometimes, and random people would be standing there with no expressions on their faces. And they finally decided to move out of the house and into the house they live in now, which is 10 to 15-minute walk from mine. And they were all sitting on their couch the night before the move, and my friend says that it was in the first time they had a very close encounter with this entity. All of a sudden, something with a very deep, evil voice whispered in his ear, "Hey, you." Well, they did move, but they found out that their current neighbors, that the neighborhood had quite a few houses with similar entities lurking inside of them. I asked his mom, "What do you think it was? And do you know if it could have been from another planet?" I'm very interested in aliens and UFOs, so of course I thought this. And she responded, "I don't know. It's possible there's life on other planets." I don't know why that's relevant, but anyway. I can't say I know exactly what the entity was, why it was there, or where it came from, but I do think it is a possibility that Satan sent it from somewhere else in the universe. I don't know. Perhaps the neighborhood had a history of demonic rituals. And ever since, in their new house, they've had it blessed, and the Virgin Mary, Mother of Christ, has helped them out in an amazing way. Well, there you have it. Very, very weird stuff for sure. I don't know. If you got an imp, get them the hell out. Nothing good's going to come of it. They're not usually little playful things. But yeah, terrible. Now I will say that it said that the imp can move extraordinarily fast. Well, I think that all spirits can, because they are, after all, an expression of energy. They're not an expression of physical body. So they don't have the same physics at work on them and that we do on us. We have drag, we got gravity, we've got so many things slowing us down so much. But everybody, I think, has had experiences where they were capable of moving much faster than they thought they were. I've had a few experiences in my life where I think that we're probably capable of moving much faster than we normally do, and processing much faster than we normally do. But I think it's kind of lying underneath the surface, maybe in our genetics somewhere lost. But these spirits are not encumbered by bodies, so they can move as fast as the energy that they are. I think I don't know if that's the speed of light nearly or what, but I know that they can very rapidly move from one place to another. In fact, it can seem like you have a whole army of entities in your house raising hell, but it can be just one shooting from room to room to room to room, doing weird stuff just because they can move that quickly, and it's very unusual for us. But the one instance that comes to mind of thinking much faster and reacting much faster than I thought I could was one time when I was a kid. I was like 15, and I went sliding with my neighbors who lived up this hill, and I lived right next to the state park in Minnesota, and we had this toboggan run. And I hadn't really done tobogganing in a number of years at that time. I was just had a weekend off of my work. I used to work weekends and evenings after high school, but I had a weekend off, and I hooked up with the neighbors, and they were sledding. And the one neighbor had this really long, one of those old-fashioned long toboggans with the hooked nose, that kind of swoops up. And it's this long, I mean, it's like a big board with a scooped nose on it or something. And I don't know whoever the hell decided that was a toboggan, but it was. So he was going down the hill with it and using his hands to drag and turn and stuff. And it was really cool. So I thought, hey, I want to give it a shot. And the problem was that this toboggan run that we had ran parallel at part of it with this deep rocky ravine that was full of these boulders and other stuff. And, I didn't really think much of it because I saw how he did it, and I didn't really worry that I could do it. So I asked him if I could use his sled. He said, sure. And so I'm up on the rise, and I'm coming down, and God, that thing moved. That freaking sled was like right out of hell itself or whatever, man. It zipped along. And I dragged my hand, and that thing did not turn. It did not turn at all. So I'm heading right for this ravine. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't turn. I can't do anything. So yeah, so as I'm sitting there watching, dumbfounded, I hit the ramp of snow before the ravine, and I'm airborne. And the next thing I know, the toboggan is just a little bit ahead of me, heading down into this rocky ravine, and I'm following it. And I'm like, oh my God, I could die here. This is really going to hurt. This is going to be a problem because it's all boulders underneath me. But as I'm falling, I looked down. As I was going down into the side of the ravine, I saw that there was a dead tree that had fallen and was laying against near the wall of the ravine. And I'm like, if I can just get my feet to land on that, I'll be okay. And so it was like I was in slow motion. And I looked and I angled my feet, and sure enough, my feet landed perfectly on this log. And then I leaned back against the wall of the ravine, and I was fine. But it was just by the chance that I could look as I was following, evaluate this whole situation, come up with a plan, and then execute it in like a fraction of a second. It was just insane. But after that, I was like, my God, it was like time really slowed down. It was like time almost wasn't moving, or just very, very, very slow. So I was always amazed by that was in me somewhere. But it was only by virtue of avoiding what could have been a horribly painful wreck or worse. So that's a true story. What does it mean? Oh, my eyes are burning, as usual. That I'm fine, Aussie. It's just this winter air and oily skin. The combination is just brutal. But no, I'm good. Thank you, though. So, it was that situation. That's an instance where obviously I could process at a much faster level than I was used to. But it was in that adrenalized state where everything just seemed to stop almost. Just almost stop. So, just a true story, though. What does it mean? I don't know. But I think we all could, if we weren't encumbered by our bodies, we could probably do a lot more. Or if we could tune ourselves to our bodies better or something, I don't know. But the quickness of spirits, I think, is directly related to the fact that they're not in a body. They can just move. They don't have physics in the same way acting upon them than we do. So interesting. This one is called it's called a bathroom ghost. I know I've moved some demons in mine before. You could even smell the sulfury breath. Sorry. I'm an idiot. What can you do? All right. So this one is just like, ooh, ew. Oh, sorry. I'm only human. This one's coming from Oregon, and it says, this is where it starts off. My brother's girlfriend, now ex, my mom, and I were in my mom's car, and I had to go to the bathroom. And luckily, we were parked in either a Burger King parking lot or a Carl's Jr. parking lot. So my brother's ex-girlfriend took me inside to go to the bathroom. And when I had already gone, I stood up to grab the toilet paper, and I heard like a little girl humming. I looked around to see what it might have been causing the humming, and there were no fans, radios, nothing that could sound like a little girl humming. It sounded like it was coming from the corner of the bathroom. The bathroom was a small square room, and there was absolutely no one except me in the bathroom. And I hurried up what I was doing, washed my hands, and ran to the door as fast as I could. And I tried to open the door, but it was locked. Stupid me. And I unlocked the door and then ran outside. My brother's ex-girlfriend asked what was wrong when she saw me panting, and I said nothing. But I ended up telling her what had happened, and I can see she didn't believe me because she looked at me like she didn't believe me and that I was crazy. I'm not sure what it was that was in the bathroom with me, and it certainly wasn't my imagination, so can someone please tell me what it was? That would be awesome. Well, I don't know. It could be anything. Could be a little kid spirit, could be not a little kid spirit, could be something dark, could be something playful. It's hard to know what you're dealing with. All right, this one's coming from South Carolina. And it says, for more than 5 years, I've kept this story to myself. I grew up in a small town called Union County, South Carolina, and I had the day off due to the snow and was across the street wasting time with my neighbor. And a little after midnight, I grew tired and decided to walk back to my house. And as I approached the gravel road and began to cross, something long and black came creeping out from underneath the street lamp on the other side directly across from me. Well, I froze instantly, and the second I stopped, it stood up on its hind legs. That's creepy. It was roughly 5 or 6 feet tall with long, black, coarse hair and fiery red orange eyes. Its body was sickly looking as if it hadn't eaten in months, but the shoulders were broad with big ears that stood straight up on top of a massive head. It was definitely the shape of a dog with wolf-like features, but it was all disfigured and oversized. Well, it sounds like a dog man, Jesus. When fear struck me, all my adrenaline kicked in and I raced for my house. The front porch was a good 50 yards or so, and I felt as if it breathed down my back of my neck the whole way. I was surprised I made it in and slammed the front door behind me. I peered out the window for hours, never seeing any movement. It was the scariest thing I've been. It's the scariest I have been in my life. Or the scaredest, maybe. When the sun came up, I went out early before the snow could melt to see if there were any paw prints through the yard or behind the street lamp, and I found only a few feet that trailed into the woods from where it came out, and then they were gone. That was all, just a few feet. I was sure it had breathed down my neck the whole way in through the yard. To this day, I'm still skittish outside after dark, and I wonder what the purpose of this dog's presence was. Mystery unexplained. Yeah, it sounds like a dogman encounter. That was where again? That's South Carolina. I guess, the Carolinas can certainly have them too. They seem to be pretty much in many states. They seem to be present. So that's, if it was looking emaciated, that's absolutely terrifying because I imagine at some point, could we be on the menu? Yeah, now I'm sure that in this situation, if it wanted to catch this boy or this girl or whatever, it would have. I mean, they would have no trouble catching a person, but it could just be kind of a mischievous streak that they just want to freak people out. They find, that intimidation is a powerful thing. And when you look at dogman encounters, 90% of them, 90 some percentage of all the dogman encounters are intimidation. That's what they do. They freak people out. And they terrify people in such a way that people don't want to go outside anymore. They don't want to be outside. They don't want to be in the wilds or the woodlands. And maybe that's the whole idea, is that these things don't want people in their areas. So what they do is they just absolutely terrorize the hell out of them. And so I'm sure it could have been behind this person pacing them and just freaking them out the whole way. But I don't think this person outran the dog man or dog being. I don't think that that's possible. Very bizarre, though. Wow. Powerful stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Powerful stuff. So, that's nice. You guys are doing the Happy New Year's to each other. Why? Win? Win makes everything better? What the hell is win? W-Y-N-E. Oh, are you saying wine? Oh, okay. It's another cha-cha-ism. Gotcha. I'm a little slow out of the gate, ladies and gentlemen, but I got it now. Duh. You're done, me. You're the one spelling it with a Y. All right, so let's continue. Oh, we got the greatest crowd ever. Always unique people in the Portal shows. Good tidings to all to you, Hetty. Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope you have a wonderful New Year and New Year's Eve as well. Whatever you're doing, just be safe. All of you be safe. If you're planning on going out and about, please be careful. Lots of idiots out there. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, here we go. And I got a few more pulled open, and let's get into these. The first one is from Texas. And it has to do with a phantom house, huh? I'm 43 years old and had a number of experiences, but this one really stands out in my mind. While I was still in high school in 1984 in Houston, Texas, my girlfriend and I were taking a shortcut across a wooded field that stood between an apartment complex and a city park. It was around 4 p.m. and there was a clearing in the center of all these trees. This wooded field wasn't dense per se. You could see into the park or to the apartment parking lots through the gaps in the trees and shrubs, and the grass was just over ankle height in the clearing, and the path we were following ran through it and then back into the trees and to the road where we were trying to get to. As we crossed the clearing, I felt a resistance building in front of me, almost like the air was thicker for a short space, and I thought it was really odd, but I kept going, and then I felt it again, and this time, however, it was only across my left side. I turned to my girlfriend to ask if she was feeling what I was, and I saw her standing at the edge of the clearing, just kind of staring at the space. I asked, "What's wrong?" or something to that effect, and she asked me if I could see the house. I had to admit that I couldn't see anything but the clearing and the trees and such, and her next statement has stuck with me all these years. "You can't see the wall you just walked through?" I walked back towards her once again, feeling that odd change in the air pressure in the same spot as before, and then standing beside her, I tried to see what she was seeing, and I saw the empty clearing. Instead of fear, I was just curious, and I walked forward with my right hand extending, and as I began to feel the air pressure change, she said, "You're touching the wall." Well, I'll cut this down. We spent from 4 p.m. until it was getting dark exploring this phenomenon. As I walked, I could feel the air pressure change, and I could feel the shape of the windows. I felt the stairs push against my body as I walked forward about ankle height, take a step, one about 8 inches high, take a step, and then another 8 inches higher than the last, and my girlfriend saying, "You're at the staircase." I could feel the tables, chairs, bookcases. She was seeing them. And I still don't know what we were experiencing that day, but would welcome any ideas or feedback anyone has to offer. My girlfriend became my wife and then my ex-wife, married after I joined the Navy and divorced 6 years later. And we now remain great friends, and I have an experience with another house with my current wife, now of 17 years in Portsmouth, Rhode Island. But that is another tale. That's interesting. I don't think I've ever heard of this before. A phantom building. Is that an echo? Is it a dimensional shift of some kind that is perceptible to the woman, but the man could only feel it in terms of an air pressure variable? I don't know. That's very, very strange. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. That one's different. Very different. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt what they're experiencing. I just don't know, what does that mean? Is there some kind of vortex around that, or vertex, or something of that manner, which is allowing them to experience in some measure or another reality that could take that same space time, but just a vibration away kind of thing? And whether that's a dimensional shift or not, I don't know. Very curious though. All right, this one's coming from New York. It says, "I'm very new to this, and I thought I would submit this experience that I had had. I was 11 years old at the time, and I have a history of chronic migraines, and I'd come home from a friend's house because I had a migraine, and I came home, took my meds, and lay down, and later I woke up and came downstairs to find that my parents had actually gone to bed, so I took advantage of that and plopped on the couch to watch some television. Being so curious about the paranormal, I found myself watching Most Haunted on the Travel Channel. And about a half an hour into the show, I felt spooky, like someone was behind me. My cat Leo was sneaking, attacking me, so I started playing back with him, and that led me to look into the computer room where my grandmother's urn was to this day. My grandmother had died on July of '06, and as I looked in the computer room, I saw a white figure standing by our family computer, and I stood there staring at it for at least 1 minute and hid under the blankets on the couch for about 5 minutes and then ran upstairs. Another time I was 12, and I was on my family computer listening to music, and I had almost all the lights on downstairs since the previous incident while I was on AIM. Oh, that's AOL Instant Messenger. Okay. At the time, my mom had this fresh egg sign for decoration, and the sign fell off the wall, and it was a totally secure on the wall, and it scared the living poop out of me. Sounds like Grandma's hanging out in the computer room. I don't know. Nothing too disturbing, I guess. Some oddities happening, but nothing like getting things thrown at you. So I don't think that's too terrible. All right, this one's from Indiana. I believe I was 8 years old when this took place. We lived in a trailer in Brazil, Indiana. It was my mom, 2 brothers, and my little sister. My stepdad was in prison for robbery, and my mom was barely making ends meet, and we lived behind his parents, who also lived in a trailer. And one night, we the family were watching a scary movie on TV, and it was pretty late. My mom slept at one end of the trailer, and my brothers, myself, and my sister slept on the other end of the trailer, separate beds. But the movie was over, and we were all getting ready for bed. Everyone fell asleep, and me and my older brother were woken up by a weird laughter. No one else woke up, so we decided to look and see what it was, and as soon as we went into the living room, the cable from the TV was jumping up and down, and the TV was blurry. We had to jump the cable to get to the kitchen. And when we got there, there was a real big man sitting at the kitchen table reading the Bible upside down. Well, that's creepy as hell. And he was real hairy, and he stunk. It scared us real bad, and we were afraid to try to run past him. We got enough nerve to run, and we were trying to get to my mom's bedroom, where she was sitting on the bed crying, and we asked her what was the matter, and she said she heard laughter and saw a man sitting at the kitchen table reading the Bible upside down. I have a lot more things happening to me there that I'll tell you later, and let me know what you think about these things. Well, that's horribly creepy. That's just really, really creepy kind of displays. And then that's a situation where some being is just trying to be disturbing, just being as contrary as hell, just to try to bother somebody, and that's horrible, very horrible. All right, this one's coming out of Mississippi. Mississippi. I used to live along the Mississippi. It was the very river that flooded my home and caused me to move out here. The mighty Mississippi. All right, so this is, my wife and I were on a road trip in May of this year and made a stop at Natchez, Mississippi. And we stayed at a former plantation house called, oddly enough, Monmouth Plantation, Monmouth Plantation. After checking in, we were shown to our room by an energetic and engaging bellman. And we asked him about a good place to eat dinner that evening, and he first suggested the dining room in the main house, and we had reservations there for the following night. If you ever go here, don't miss it. And he then suggested the King's Tavern, which is in town a mile or so away. And we arrived at 6 o'clock to an almost deserted restaurant. The dining room is rather dark and somber, stone walls, if I recall correctly. And we were seated and given a menu and a printout of the history of the building and a photocopied newspaper article that looked like the National Enquirer or something along those lines. And the printout stated that the building is haunted by a ghost named Madeline. I'd forgotten the details for the supposed haunting, but you were invited to visit her bedroom on the 3rd floor. The writer of the newspaper article stated that while she was dining in the inn, a heavy iron chain hung on the wall by her table began to swing to and fro while she was eating. And there was also a photo of her at the table. And when I looked on the wall, the chain was right there beside our table. As dinner progressed, I was fooling with my wife, trying to scare her a bit, asking Madeline to make an appearance, or at least make the chain move, but nothing happened. And we were then having dessert and coffee, and I asked my wife if she wanted to go up to the 3rd floor with me. Well, she declined, and I went up and looked around, and it is said that sometimes the bed felt warm as if someone had just gotten out of it. Well, I touched it and nothing, and I asked Madeline to make an appearance. Nothing. So I went back downstairs and told my wife she hadn't missed anything, and then took a sip of my coffee, and it tasted and smelled like perfume. I'd drunk some of it before going upstairs, and it was fine, and I asked my wife if she was messing with me, and she assured me that she wasn't. She never wears perfume, as I have allergic reactions sometimes, and she also assured me that our waitress had not been to the table. I told the hostess this story as we were leaving, and she just smiled and said, "Madeline likes you." We returned to our room, and we went to bed a few hours later. Sometime during the night, I woke and the first thing I realized was that I couldn't move. I looked to my right, and there was a white apparition standing or floating right beside me. I could see through it and the painting on the wall behind it, but I couldn't make out the facial features very clearly, but it was definitely a female form. I didn't feel frightened or threatened, and after a time, 1 minute or 10, I'm not sure, the image just faded away, and I fell back to sleep and slept peacefully the rest of the night. When I told my wife what had happened in the morning, she said, "Well, you did ask for her to make an appearance." That's true. Got to be careful what you wish for. Although it doesn't sound like Madeline's much trouble. Sounds like she's just likes some attention. 52 of you here. I guess there's a lot of people hanging out on this fine New Year's Eve, staying away from all the madness out out on the towns. I guess I'm not the only one. All right, let's open some more, and I'll open 3 more. I don't know where we'll end up. Depends on how long these are. I don't know. I'm just pulling them at random. Okay. This one is from Ohio. It says, "When my parents died less than 2 years apart, my world filled with such emptiness. I missed them so much. Since I was an only child living, my brother died of a brain aneurysm when only 26 years old. And it was my responsibility to go through their house filled with 54 years of living, and I never counted on dealing with their memories that flooded my mind each time I walked through the door or picked up a piece of paper with their handwriting on it. There were times when I just had to turn around and go home, but I knew I had to accept the job that lay before me. A close friend of mine suggested having a tag sale, but I wasn't having good vibes about that. In fact, I just couldn't seem to part with some of their belongings, and after many a sleepless night and lots of tears, I felt drawn back to the house one afternoon. Don't ask me why. I just felt that I needed to go home. On the drive over, I prayed for guidance or a sign or something to help with this decision. When I got out of the car, I felt as if someone was watching me, but nobody was there, and when I put the key in the lock and turned the doorknob, I smelled the aroma of coffee. What in the world, I thought, and then I heard it. My father said, "What is she going to do? She better think it over." "I don't know," my mom said, and I stopped dead in my tracks, and for a minute I just stood there. The tone of their voices showed true concern, and all of a sudden it came to me. I knew a tag sale was not the answer. I had to figure out something else, and when I walked into the kitchen, no one was there, and I looked all over the house, and it was empty, as my heart felt. And were they trying to guide me? I felt a sense of peace come over me. I started gathering things to take to the Goodwill or a local hospice store. At least I was accomplishing something, and helping others was something my parents loved to do. Now I was helping people in need, and I know that they were happy with my choice. Wow, that's awesome. How emotional would that be to go back into your old house, smell the aroma of your parents being there, hear their voices talking about you and stuff. And just, I don't know. I bet you'd want to hang on to that moment forever. Just like, don't stop. I don't want to be alone. That poor girl or guy. I don't know who wrote it, but yeah, that's just very touching. Sorry. It is very dry. I'm quite dry. All right, this one is coming from Arizona. What the hell is going on down in Arizona? Well, let's find out. Oh, is Vamp in here? How you doing, Vamp, if you're here? Good to see you. I don't know. I'm going to scroll through the chat quick because, no, I guess not. I saw someone say at Vamp or something. Tracy Benna. Good to see everybody. Thank you all for being here. It's great to see all these friendly faces. Arizona Eek. Cha-cha. Why is Arizona creepy? I don't know. I mean, they got the Sonoma things and all that, but I think they got a lot of stuff in Arizona, especially with UFOs, the Phoenix Lights, of course. You know, the alleged portals that are there. Lots of spiritual stuff going on. Lots of cryptid stuff going on. I think skinwalkers are allegedly there as well. But I don't know. Well, let's find out. Arizona. My husband and I bought our first home in February of 2006, just a few months shy of my son's 2nd birthday. We were thrilled to give him his own room and a huge backyard to play in, and just a place to start new memories. Within months of moving in, he began talking of a man that he saw. The man, he said, would watch him during the night and lived in his closet. That is, I don't care how many times I hear that. That is still going to be creepy. There's just no way to make that sound good. My husband and I brushed this off as his imagination and related it to something he may have seen or heard on TV. But the mention of the man became more frequent, and one time while washing his hands, he looked up at the light sconce on our wall and said, "Look, Mommy, the man is smiling at me." Of course, I looked and no one was there, but I felt like I was being watched, and my son all the while lathered his hands, looking at the light, smiling and feeling happy. He then began to talk about the boy in his closet as well, and he came during the night to see him, but something about the boy was not comforting at all. He began to wake up crying and had troubles getting settled for sleep. Then we had to start tying the closet doors together so the boy could not come out. My husband and I started having our own encounters with something that we can't explain. I hear a child's voice sometimes in my sleep whispering, "Mommy," and I wake up to find my children sound asleep. My son is now 4 and my daughter is 6 months. And one night I heard the voice 4 times over the span of 6 hours or so, and the voice always comes at the same minute, but at a different hour. Example 12:14, 1:14, and 3:14. Our daughter will sometimes wake up in her crib screaming with the same pattern. One night my husband had a vision or dream where he fell asleep in the living room of a young girl who told him the spirits were not going to bring harm to the family. He stumbled into bed and dozed off again and woke to the feeling someone sit on his chest whispering, "Does that feel good?" Wow. No, having someone sit on your chest generally doesn't feel good. Oftentimes at night when it's quiet, we hear movement and rustling through the house. We always make a mad dash around, but no one was ever there. And just this weekend, I had placed my hairbrush on top of a bookshelf and it fell off and landed a few feet away. Nick jumped up and said, "The boy did it." And that was the first mention of anyone in a few months. What can we do to help our son and daughter deal with this and make sure it doesn't harm them emotionally? I've been told to light a white candle and ask them to leave, but does that work? Well, you could certainly something you could try. I mean, does it work? Well, if you believe it works, it may very well work. I don't know. That's a tough one. Again, I think in most cases, hauntings are not negative. They're just presences. In fact, I don't think the term haunting is fair in most cases. I just think there's other people there, and they don't mean harm. They're just there, and I think that they maybe just want to be acknowledged as being there, and that's good. Again, use your words, just like you tell a little kid to deal with their problems. Use your words. Well, talk to these spirits. Say, "Hey, if you're here, this is the rules. If you can't live by the rules, you'll have to leave. If you're not willing to leave, I'm going to get someone here to make you leave." And then, hopefully it'll resolve itself. Most of the time, it's, as everything I've heard, it does. All right. So next one is Texas. This one's a little bit longer. This may be our last story tonight, but let's see. I need to give you a little background on the situation my sister and I were in before I begin the story. I was having a hard time after September 11th, 2001. I had lost my job and gotten behind on a few bills, and I ended up sharing a small apartment with my sister, who was also having a hard time catching up. And we were feeling down and out in life, doing drugs and other things that we really shouldn't have been doing. And we were definitely going down the wrong path. It was Halloween night 2003. All the trick-or-treaters had gone in for the evening, and my sister and I realized that we didn't have anything in the house to drink, so we decided to go down to the corner store. We got our coats on and headed down to the street and discussing where our lives were headed and how we needed to change the way we were living. And before we knew it, we were at the store. We went in and got our drinks and headed back home. And on the way back home, we continued our conversation, and we walked about 2 blocks, and both of us got a really eerie feeling. I looked up and saw a large being coming towards us. It was about 6 or 6.5 feet tall, and it was wearing a large top hat, and it also had on a long black trench coat like Jack the Ripper wore. And we were a little creeped out, but decided to keep walking, a little more cautious in our strides. And as we got closer to the being, more and more detail came into focus. It had long, white, wiry hair. Its arms and legs were out of proportion with the rest of its body. I then looked at its hands and realized they too were extra long and thin, and its fingers were long and bony, and it seemed to radiate pure evil. There was no way I could see its face or features that it had due to the top hat shading its face in the night. My sister and I were now really freaked out, and there was no way we could get to the gate of our complex before it reached us. And its pace seemed to quicken as we got closer and closer to it, and it almost seemed to glide across the ground in an unearthly gait. My sister grabbed my shoulder and pulled me through a gap in the fence, safely on the other side of the fence. We glanced back. A few moments later, the being was there. It passed us with almost no acknowledgement, except a slight movement of its head, as if to show its discontent in our escape. My sister and I, although shaken, headed home with an eager pace. That's horrible. The next morning, I woke up with the events of the night before vividly in my mind. The more I think about it, I realize that I didn't remember there ever being a gap in the fence before. I'd walked all around that complex, and the only openings in the fence were the entrance gates. I just thought that maybe the apartments had been doing maintenance on the fence, so I went to check, and there wasn't any large gap in there enough for an adult to squeeze through. So I went to the office to ask them, and they looked at me as if I were crazy and told me they hadn't done any maintenance on the fence in at least 6 months. So I just thank God for giving us an out and not allowing this thing to overtake my sister and I. And shortly after the events of that Halloween night, we quit doing drugs and turned our lives around. I truly think the events of that night was our wake-up call. It was a divine way of telling us we were going down the wrong path. That's all kinds of creepy. So is that one of those situations where it's really not an evil thing at all? It's just a representation, a symbolic representation of the course of your life? And I think maybe. I think that's almost a tulpa of sorts, a thought form, whether conscious or unconscious, of something that was coming if they didn't change their ways. And so they by the grace or virtue found an opening to get through. And it sounds like a very symbolic event that was mirroring the life they were living. But just my 2 cents, I don't know, but that's what jumps out to me. So I don't know what you guys think, but that's what I think. Yeah, that's about the show for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, Happy New Year's to you all. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. I know it's over on the East Coast. It's getting close. You guys are about to see the ball drop. If you're over in Australia, it's already 2020, isn't it? But yeah, thank you, Julia. Don't forget, guys, to use the coupon code PORTAL, Portal, all capitals 2020 on our Teespring site to save 15%, and that'll go through the first full week, which is like 7 days until the following Wednesday. So a week from this coming Wednesday, that coupon code will be active. So that's an opportunity for you to save some money and get some awesome gear as well. Hopefully you'll take advantage of that because what can I say? It's great stuff. But again, don't forget the Paranormal Investigation Journal that's available on Amazon. The link is in the description. It's just a journal. It's pre-formatted with spaces and stuff for you to record investigations you or someone you know may be getting into. Hopefully it'll help to streamline the information recording process and help you be thorough in your investigation. As a lot of people are embarking on the paranormal investigation, the biggest thing you need to do is to record information. So that's our attempt at helping you accommodate that. And again, the link is in the description, so check it out. And if you like the music on the portal, definitely check out the Bandcamp site. You can download copies of your very own brentthomas.bandcamp.com. So there's some options there, ladies and gentlemen, of ways to support the portal. Otherwise, you can just donate. There's the PayPal link is up on the upper right-hand corner of your screen. If you look up over here, there's the donate path if you want to do that. If you can. If you can't, don't worry about it. It's certainly appreciated, but it's not mandatory. Anyway, guys, that's going to about wrap it up for me tonight. I'm going to go relax and enjoy the rest of 2019, the last hour or so, or a couple hours. That will certainly help. But thank you all for being here and joining me tonight. Happy New Year's. I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out, especially going into this new year. Make 2020 amazing. Recreate yourself. Get rid of old parts of your life that aren't serving to help you anymore. And find the magic in every day and remember to laugh as much as you can. Good night, everybody. I love you guys, and sweet dreams.